All right,
Hey.
everybody, we're back. Hey, what's up, Troy?
Oh, just another day in paradise. Been working all day at my corporate slug job, and off we go. So
All
here
right.
we're going to have some fun tonight and chit chat about whatever. We might go all over the daggum place. So if you're listening to this, I'm a little erratic sometimes, even though I'm 53 and I'm supposed to be a mature adult. It's so overrated. I raised three kids and all that. So I've raised three good kids, and here we go. So thanks for having me on. It was fun at ATA, and I
Yeah,
had a good time there. The
yeah, great to meet
attendance
you. Brian and I both thought you did a great job in your seminar.
Sure
We
did.
both were there watching and saw you duke it out with what's his nuts Burnsworth over there. But happy to have you on. Glad you're on here. Brian, how you doing, buddy? Happy St. Patty's Day.
Thanks, buddy. Same to you. I'm a hot mess today. It was 70 degrees after we had 6 or 8 inches of snow on Friday night. So I was outside doing all kind of crazy stuff, and we turned the clocks forward, and I'm like, oh damn, I got a podcast in about 20 minutes. I better get
right.
inside and
Get thrown off a little
get
bit.
to getting.
Absolutely. Yeah, the podcast, the presentation at ATA got a little sidetracked. I actually wanted him to go somewhere. That was my only problem with Jim, was he didn't go anywhere. He was kind of lost. He was tripping over his own shoelaces the whole time and out over his skis. And I couldn't figure out what the hell he was talking about. It could have been really interesting, right? And he didn't go anywhere. So next time I looked at that and I looked back, and the Rocket Man was back in the corner. He goes, man, that's it was kind of BS. And I went, no, Jim is no smarter today than he was, and I am a lot smarter. I mean, I'm ready for that now. So it was actually a good thing. But he's a long range guy, and he didn't disagree with my math.
Well, it didn't look like you weren't ready. I mean, you handled that perfectly fine, I think. I mean, I would have lost my temper a little bit, but you handled it super well.
Well, anybody that opens up with "I've done this and I've done that," you've already got him. There, he already had the speed wobbles when he had to introduce himself. Was killing 9,000 animals. I wanted to say, well, you've killed 1,000 animals, so that means you're about 50. So that's 30 or 35 animals a year over 3 decades, right? I mean, that's what you're telling me. That's 2 a month, 2.5 a month. Okay, I got you.
Right.
I do depredation hunts, and I don't get 30 a year. The best I did 52 pigs one year, but that was all. I bought 3 ARs when the Trump Hillary thing was going through, because I thought it was going to be bad. And I decided to use them. So I deployed them one year and killed 56 pigs with them. So I was a little bit rambunctious, but anyway, what y'all want to chit chat about? Do you have any direct questions that are burning in your head?
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple for you. Happy to have you on. Been a big fan of the Ranch Fairy channel on YouTube for a long time.
Great, thank you.
And I've probably seen all your videos, maybe twice. Big fan. Just glad to have you here. And so basically, we want to hear about your story, hear about your background first, kind of how we get these things started. Paint us a picture of who you are, where you're from, that whole video, and then it's March right now, St. Patty's Day, and people are probably thinking about arrows and broadheads and all that stuff for this year. So kind of the thing here. So go ahead and let us know, all about you, if you don't mind.
No problem. I'm a corporate slug. I've been working for a Fortune 500 company for 22 years, and somehow I've had 7 different jobs, and I've advanced way beyond where I ever thought I would, with a 2.6 when I graduated high school. And I actually have 2 degrees, which somehow miraculously occurred. And one of them is in respiratory therapy. I thought I wanted to be a respiratory therapist or a doctor, and I found out very quickly I did not want to work like that. But I have always had a very strong science mind, and in school I made straight A's in science. I did very well in respiratory therapy school. I was top of my class kind of thing, because it was functional learning. I literally said to the algebra teacher, we did that crap yesterday. Boring, right? But I was fortunate in school to have a cadaver. Well, we had multiple cadavers, and we actually had tests where the chest wall was open and there were pins in it, and you had a blank piece of paper, and you had to figure out what the hell the pin was in. And that's not normal. So fast forward, my story for the channel is failure. I shot a 150-inch deer in 2007 or 8. I honestly don't care to kill another deer. Howard got me going this year because that's a big deer on the ranch that I have basically managed up for 10 years, but we'll do that on another podcast. He was big. But since that time, I couldn't care less to kill a deer. I raised boys, and I've got 39 nieces and nephews. I married a dog. My wife has 9 siblings.
Wow.
So I've got a gun with 36 names on it of people who shot their first animal with it. I write their name on the stock.
That's
It's
fantastic.
really cool. So I've been in on, and I don't know how many deer I've killed because of my subscribers. I probably killed 2,000 deer this year, right? Just sitting in my chair. So, but failure means I never lost my love for hunting big feral hogs, and they're not easy. Everybody thinks you just go sit by the old feeder and the old fat boy comes out and you plunk him in the side and whack him big. And they are like a mature whitetail. You got to let the little ones pass. You got to sit there sometimes and not shoot. You got to hunt the big ones, and they'll walk over, go downwind 80 yards of you, smell you, and walk off. They won't even grunt. I've seen them just walk across the pasture. There's a bunch of pigs in front of me. They'll swing behind me. You see them go like this, and they go, and they just go like this, and they walk off. They don't scream at you. They don't run. They just walk off. They go, gotcha, right? There was one pig, I almost got a rifle and whacked him because I got tired of doing that, but I didn't do that. So we are sitting at deer feeders. I know the distance. When a big one comes in, he's convinced he's right and he's not dying. He's checked all the damn boxes that he's been checking for 5 or 10 years. And he's right there. And I was 50% at one time. We used to just go, I don't know how to kill these things. So I had mechanicals. I had 400 spine arrows. I was shooting 70 pounds. I was going fast. I was going with the normal stuff.
And when you say 50%, Troy, sorry, when you say 50%, you mean you found 1 out of every 2 hogs you shot.
That's right. Or less. I'm giving myself a little latitude there. It was terrible.
Sure.
And it sucks because you'll hunt one for 10 hunts. And they're right there. There's no swinging out of trees or climbing in public and they come by. You can wait till they're quartering away. If you're patient, you'll get the shot you want. Just wait. They're not going anywhere. They're convinced they're right. And they run everything else off. And they'll just do circles around the feeder. You just got to wait. You'll get a quartering away shot. I had every broadhead on earth. Every setup. I kept changing, doing this, doing that. 4-blade, 20-blade, mechanicals. And it just wasn't. I have guns. I have a 44 Magnum lever gun that's badass for shooting those guys right in the freaking head. The sound of that little bullet a big bullet hitting them in the head is awesome. Whoop! It's great because the gun's quiet. Anyway, in probably 2014, I started exploring the high Florida center thing. And the only thing out was Ed's study. And I read the whole thing and I said, well, I can't do any worse. I already suck. So if that don't work, I can't suck worse than I'm sucking now. So I tuned one up and I still wasn't convinced. And I had my bow shooting a 670 grain arrow with a single bevel. Real nice. Didn't know how to tune, didn't know about knock tuning. I was fletch tuning and I kept spining up and kind of half-ass figured it out.
You went right for the goose though with a 670. You didn't screw around with an arrow in the 400s, 500s.
No, I decided I was going to go do Ed if I was going to do Ed, right?
Sure.
Well,
sure.
I had one of my longbow going and I had one of my compound. I wasn't convinced that slow with compound was the right move. My head wasn't right. But the stick bow was what Ed shot. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. So I had 670 grains, about 28% Florida center. I had the exact head that Ed shot in the study, which is this head right here. That's the 190 Grizzly. At the end of the study, that was the biggest single bevel out there. Now there's all kind of stuff and tough heads and all that good stuff. Much better stuff than that. Anyway, I go out wandering about looking for a test pig, and I'm looking for like a test pig, like a 100-pound test pig, just to test on. No, I get the biggest pig I've shot to date. 265 pounds hanging is a big pig for me, for our place. We don't have a lot of agriculture where there's fields and stuff that get huge, but so I mosey up and I go, you got to be freaking kidding me. I stalk up on him, and the damn thing literally looks at me like, what you going to do with that thing? He walks up 17 yards, and they can't bend. Like a deer can turn its head, so pigs swivel like a hole. They just go like this. So he walks and turns toward me, and I said, if Ed's right, this is going to work. And I was thinking in my head, this shit ain't going to work. So I go back to 54 pounds. I mean, I'm shooting about 157, 58 feet per second. It's slow. And I shoot that pig right there, and it goes chut and buries. Like it disappears in him. Well, it went smooth through him. And the broadhead popped out his ham. So we're talking 4 feet of penetration, easy. I'm going like this. The pig's on the ground spinning. I thought I broke his back. He gets up and runs kind of toward me. He was just leaving. He didn't charge me or anything. And I promptly shoot right over his back at like 4 yards. I took one step and stepped in his foot tracks, and he ran off in the bushes. So as a forward hit, blah, blah, blah. We waited 4 hours. We found him. He went 100 yards. And I went, I'm used to hit someone this much arrow sticking out. Okay. But I shot smooth through one with this slow deal. And I said, So I tuned up the bow, my compound, and took off. And I started whacking them. It is now to the point that it's me. If I put the arrow in the wrong place, I did this summer. I was hunting this great big pig out here on the ranch on my local place. I finally got him in front of me. I hit him back, and the arrow went plumb through him, and he got away. He didn't die. He went to another feeder. He said, "Hey, oh, that feeder over there." But it's just me now. I don't have broadhead failures. I don't have arrow failures. I don't have half an arrow penetration. I break things when I hit them. And if I shoot correctly, this sounds like an arrogant statement, but 70 yards is a long way to go get one if I hit them right. Oh, yeah. I've had lots of people tell me that, and I always go, yeah, right. You're just full of crap. It's amazing what happens. And I honestly think the more I look at this, the more I ponder this, the more I learn to sharpen and get really good steel. I think my broadheads in the old days were getting destroyed on impact.
Well, hogs are tough. I mean, real tough. And they're hiding.
Well, so to speak. So there's a couple things that's real funky about them. First of all, they're always covered in sand. Even when they look dry, they're not, because they roll and roll. Their hair is awful. I don't know if you've ever cleaned one, but they eat knives.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, then they eat knives, right? And I honestly think my broadheads were hitting the impact side of the pigs and getting chewed up, and the blades were getting dulled. And then they hit the ribs, which are awful. Next time you got a rack of ribs in front of you, look at the bones. They're like this far apart. So I think I was shooting them and hitting them with dull broadheads. They were sharp in my hand. They were dull when they hit the lungs, and they could just go.
Yeah.
Now when I'm shooting I'm stropping, and I've got great broadheads that don't die and don't break. So that's my story. So I started the channel because I started going, wow, this is amazing. And you can get aggressive on the forward part of them with the arrow like that. And I wasn't supposed to be on podcasts. I was supposed to stay in my hole with my tinfoil hat and leave me alone, because I got about 3 friends I like, and the rest of the people can just go away. And somehow I got out of control. So here we are. That's my story.
So Troy, you mentioned Ed. Give our listeners the Cliff Notes version for anybody that might not be familiar with Ed and his studies back in the day. Sure.
So Dr. Ed Ashby did a 27-year study on arrow penetration. That would be almost 3 decades. He hurt himself. He fell off down a mountain or something hunting sheep and could not continue. So the first study was all with a stick bow. He was getting ready to start doing compounds, and he hurt himself to the point that he couldn't keep doing it. Some of the stuff in Australia changed, and there were some things that happened worldwide that didn't allow him the freedom that he had in the old days. But in Africa, he was a PH. He was also a beta tester for Barnes bullets and some other cool stuff. He's done so many things. And by a weird, curious bunch of events, the whole continent of Africa asked him it's a long story, but to study arrow penetration and figure out what was legitimately effective for archery. You could not legally bow hunt in the 80s and before. I don't know when the law changed. It's like 85 or 90 or somewhere, but you could not legally bow hunt in Africa. And there were 3 countries, if I got it right, that had no ways or means law. So you could do whatever you wanted, freaking punt guns and bombs and whatever. They didn't care how you killed everything. And they wanted the economic value of having bow hunters come over. So he did this long study, and he started out with wood and aluminum and whatever broadheads he could get, just guessing. He's literally guessing. Shooting Cape Buffalo, then he moved to Australia, where there's a crap load of Asiatics. They're everywhere. And started testing on them, and just started, he didn't know what he was doing. He was just a curious dude plunking arrows into stuff and started to discover this stuff. And then carbon came along and allowed a very light arrow with a very heavy point, and that's how the forward to center thing came about. Forward to center is an aeronautical term that is commonly known in the model rocket industry, flight characteristics, anything that's long and fast, like tank penetrators and long range missiles and stuff. It's a known thing. But carbon allowed him to build a very light arrow with a heavy point. And that's when he started to see these dramatic changes. Durability, sharp, single bevel. There's 12 factors, but so he's the coolest guy ever and super fun to hang out with. There ain't anybody on earth wouldn't like to hang out with Ed Ashby. He's so much fun. So that's the short version. And so he did the study. It's very detailed, graphs, charts. I looked at a piece of it the other day. He was studying different tip, just the tip. So curved, tonto, pointy, U-shaped, rounded. And he did 6 shots with each tip. So that's 36 shots, and then compress the data. It's a crap load of work. It's actually pretty amazing that he went to that much detail. So there's a lot of naysayers and stuff and say you can shoot holes in that thing left and right. All I tell people is please do it and then prove us wrong.
Sure.
We'll accept the data. I'm on the foundation. I'm not part of the board, but I'm part of the team that keeps it going. If anybody beats the study somehow and has the data and has it written out, can't just stand around and give the old, well, that's a bunch of BS. I mean, I get that all the time. You can't do anecdotal comments. We'll take your information. So, but until now, the gold standard is an arrow over 650 grains, FOC above 19%, with a hand sharpened, long, skinny single bevel. That's the gold standard to compare all other platforms with. And I assure you, they are terrifyingly awesome. It's amazing what they'll do.
I love it.
Yeah, well, you always mention that facts are stubborn things, and
facts are stubborn things.
John
Adams was actually defending British soldiers in that, and they won. A bunch of British soldiers a bunch of Americans back in the colonies went crazy drunk and started a fight with these British soldiers, and they killed a couple of Americans. And John Adams, who was in the process of working on this thing called the Declaration of Independence, had to defend the British guys, and the British guys were right. And that's how he opened his closing argument, was facts are stubborn things. And he didn't get them off. They were in the right. It's kind of a crazy story, but you have to read books and be interested in things like that. Another one of my flaws, I read books and old books and stuff like that. So it's fun. But yeah, facts are stubborn things, and it's a good time.
So Ed's studies, were those mostly from traditional bows, or did he do some amount of compounds also?
So in the beginning, they shot compounds, but they did have, you can't measure penetration if the arrows don't stop. So the study was done mostly with a trad bow, and it's also the least efficient platform, right? So if it'll be done with a stick bow, a compound gives you more velocity and higher momentum. It should scale up. But if you're shooting something big, that's why they shot buffaloes and stuff. A deer wouldn't do it because you couldn't measure. Every arrow goes through, you can't measure. All you can write down is pass through, which is optimal, right? But when you do that, like I said, the point thing, curved, rounded, tip, you need them to stop. And then you can measure what's left. Okay, that one's 8% better. Well, if 4 to center is 12%, and arrow mass is 10%, and the point's 3%, and the sharpness is 7%. It's like an algorithm, and it adds up. And all of a sudden, you have this arrow that's 82% better by each incremental thing of the 12 factors. So that's why they do the big animals. Rob Nielsen's going hippo hunting this summer, and they're gonna plunk a hippo and do another study.
Wow, that'll be cool.
Some bitch is gonna stop some arrows. And I promise you, there will
Absolutely.
not be a 400 grain arrow with a mechanical on the front of it. That's not even. I want him to do it. And he's like, it'll bounce off and hit me in the face. So that's a little bit about how the study is done, and we're going to continue to go forward. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
That's why I've got a 25 and a 40-pound bow that the foundation bought me for testing, and I've killed 2 or 3 pigs with the 40-pound bow with 700 grain arrows, and but they don't make it.
Yeah.
It kills the crap out of them. Going like
So
140.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so we could go on about that, the study forever. And I just want to give our listeners a chance to find that information. I'm assuming they can go to the foundation website and click on some links
Right.
there.
Yeah, ashbybowhunting.org. The most relevant thing you'll want to see is you go into the supplemental reports, and there's a 2021 Cape Buffalo study. Rob had a lady show up in camp. Well, she was planned to come. She shoots 38 pounds and 25 inches. And he made some arrows for her that were 30% 4 to center. And on a downed Cape Buffalo bull, she put 5 consecutive shots into the opposite chest wall. They were good thoracic hits, no heavy bone, just the ribs. But the broadhead went all the way to the other side with 38 pounds. But that was a 12-factor optimized system. And we watch YouTube, and people can't shoot through a deer. A deer's about, it's a lot smaller than a Cape Buffalo. Let's just say that. A lot smaller.
And we're going to get there. And right before that, Brian, on the Ashby thing, you've been following Ashby for a while. Brian has, and Ashley has shot some pigs down in Florida. Brian, you told me we're going to go shoot my first pig. What were you shooting down there, Brian? I know you shot a few pigs down there. What was your setup then? How did it perform? Maybe Troy can criticize. Maybe you don't want him to. We'll see. But I know you were very effective. You were effective.
Well,
you killed him. I'm asking. I'm kind of wondering what you were shooting him with. And
yeah, I'm sort of up on the age of getting towards Troy here, aside from your age. So we got to go way back to when I was shooting traditional bows and killing them down in Texas, where Troy's at.
Yep.
I've shot them with everything from homemade self bows that I've made to long bows, recurves, kind of like Troy. We just experimented with all kinds of different things, cedar shafts, heavy arrows, lost a bunch of them, just like Troy said, not knowing any better, having too light of setups, not waiting for the perfect shot. But yeah, the place in Florida that you're talking about that we've both recently been shooting pigs there, I'm just shooting a standard compound with about a 500 weight, 525 maybe, with everything package.
Yep.
I'm working on it. I'm getting more interested in the 600 grain that you guys have been talking about, and I'm going to order one of those kits from Sirius and get
Nice.
No pun intended, get serious about it this spring.
Literally go 650. Just do it. Just jump over the log, man. It's
Sure.
a different. You go 650, and the next one with a single bevel, shoot them here.
so
I'd like to see that 4 feet
point,
of
It's
penetration.
disruptive.
I'm tempted just to go 650. To your point, Brian, I went down to that place in Florida. I brought my bow, flew it down there. I had probably a 500 grain arrow, or no, probably 450, 425 with 100 grain. It was a G5 2-blade Havoc mechanical. It's before I knew Troy, before I knew this stuff. I arrowed that hog, and I watched blood pour out. The arrow only went in maybe 6-7 inches, probably 200-pound hog. Maybe 175, not gigantic, but good size. And and the guy literally, he looks at me, he goes, "Oh no." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Told you should have had the gun." And I'm thinking, I feel pretty good about it. What's the issue? And he's like, "Oh man, no." He shoulder punched him. Not good. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, first time ever doing this, right? So I'm like freaking out inside. And I watched him run away, blood just leaking out. And I'm like, well, I think I got something good in there. And he's like, yeah, oh man. And he's done this probably 500 times. So he's as soon as he saw my bow come out of the truck, he's like, oh boy. And but we ended up finding him. It was a great shot. He died 150 yards later. But the whole point is I can see where his concern was in terms of very little penetration. Bringing somebody out there going through all this work, and then now we have an injured hog on the run. It's like it could have been a mess. Luckily, I made a decent shot and it was good, but at that time the arrow only went in 7-8 inches total, and that was probably 525 total weight. I'm still shooting that. No, I bet that was lighter than that. I bet that was probably 475 total weight, because now I added inserts. I'm shooting about 530, but yeah, that was interesting. His thought on the whole thing, his immediate reaction, just him with hogs for 30 years and me not. He's kind of like seen this before, it's kind of interesting. So I just didn't know what Brian used to shoot his pigs with and whatnot. And it's just the mechanical G5 does make a sharp mechanical, but I'm not I'm shooting fixed. No, for sure.
Yeah, most people, they just don't know. It's fine. I say a lot of crazy crap on my channel and stuff like that, but I've been there. And the difference now is, I will say that I definitely, you will have reduced blood trails because of the narrower broadheads, but the arrows will go through them like they're not even there. And they just don't. Pigs, animals without an arrow in them don't run. They run, but they don't go anywhere. They run and they stop. If the arrow's sticking out of them, it's going to whack trees and stuff, and it keeps them going and makes them keep going. And it's real. I've shot a lot of pigs that I shot smooth through them, and they kind of spin around looking around. They're dead. They don't know it. And then they just kind of run off. They're not head down going through the brush where you can hear them. They just, I rarely actually hear them crash, because I think they run and stop, and then they just tip over. I mean, occasionally I get one that does a cartwheel out there. It's wonderful. You hear ka-toom, crash. It's fantastic. But usually my average first blood distance, this is something everybody should do. They should write all this stuff down, but nobody wants to do that because facts are stubborn things and people hate getting kicked in the head. It takes about 35 yards to find blood for me. And usually they're right there. Like, I start finding blood in the pigs down there, I smell them. I find a lot of pigs in the dark by going downwind, and you just walk back and forth, and all of a sudden you'll smell them. It's just easier that way. I also have a thermal on my phone. It's really kick ass in the winter. You just walk out there and go like this. Oh, hey, right there.
Is that on your phone?
Yeah, there's a little thermal attachment you can buy that you stick on your phone. It's got to be cold. It can't be like now. It's above 70 or 80 degrees and everything's kind of the same temperature. But when it's below 50, when I hit them right now, I just go. I don't wait. I mean, they're dead. When I hit them low and in the forward, I give them 10 minutes and I go get them. And I know it sounds arrogant, but man,
well,
when you learn where the right shot is, they can't survive. They can't. They're dead. They're running, but they're dead. And
so if anybody thinks Troy sounds arrogant, go to his YouTube channel. 55,000 subscribers may batten down that arrogant feeling a little bit. I think it's some credibility.
Why didn't everybody just leave me alone? I wanted to live in my little hole.
Exactly.
You'll be too busy laughing to think he's arrogant. I'll tell you that much.
I never thought you were arrogant.
I love it.
Yeah. I hate arrogant people. I wouldn't have you on here if I thought you were arrogant. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I've done a lot of things, and I'm a little kid right now. I mean, one of my friends sent me a picture of his beer can shooting potato gun. And I texted him back. I said, when in the hell are we going to grow up? Like, we're in our 50s. We shouldn't be making beer can. You get a walker, eat, get some ED medicine, get our faces all puffed up with that Botox bullshit. And my friend's shooting beer cans out of a potato gun and thinks it's funny. Right? I mean, God, I'm never going to grow up. I think Tannerite's great. Launching freaking tire rims 100 feet in the air. My kids grew up shooting Tannerite and blowing up dryers and crap when they were 8 years old. They don't have a clue what normal people do. We put 5 pounds of Tannerite in a dryer and flew it out of the picture of the damn camera. You couldn't, I mean, it was all gone.
That's
boys were like,
fantastic.
woo! 8 years old.
Oh
right?
man.
Oh,
I think we live in the wrong states, Brian. I think we need to live in Texas. We almost had a habitat plan down there, Troy, not too far from you. Didn't end up kicking in, but we need to come down there and see it because that would have been a good time. I think
if y'all come down, holler at me. If y'all come for something, come call me. We'll go to the ranch and y'all can blast pigs. I don't give a crap. I'll shoot them. But I'm taking some friends turkey hunting this weekend. We'll shoot some pigs and whatever. I'll just be kind of running around with a ranch hand crap doing whatever ranch fairy stuff. That's why I came up with the ranch fairy name. I've been calling myself the ranch fairy because I run the ranch and I do all the crap and tractors and fences and all that and take care of the cows with the ranch manager and all that. And so I've been calling myself the ranch fairy for 10 years with the family. Just call the ranch fairy. If the AC's out, I'll come down and fix it, Yep. And that's how I kind of came up with the name. But it's been fun. It's probably the most rewarding thing as I age. I really like seeing other people succeed. I love seeing all the pictures come in where people say, I've never shot through a deer. This one went 40 yards. Wow. That's when it's rewarding. And it's fun to see like the hunting public kids, start playing with this stuff. And I mean, Jake shot an elk this year, quartering 2, and it went 47 yards or something.
Wow.
And shot completely through it. He just went point on the shoulder because it was quartering 2 and just blasted through it with like 700 grain arrows. Yeah. And so, like I said, as I age, I'd rather be fishing, and I'm going to keep doing the channel because other people benefit. I mean, I really help. I think I'm helping the sport. Actually, I know I am. I don't give a crap what anybody thinks.
For sure.
You are. And I think if everybody doesn't know, this is a video podcast, so this will be on YouTube. So you can see us all having a great time here. But Troy's, his YouTube is called Ranch Fairy, just so you guys know. And I mean, Zach Fehrenbaugh, he shot a buck in Nebraska about 2 years ago, dead on, front and shoulder, boom, right through it, 700 grain, single bevel, just like you talk about. And kind of segueing into our next thing here, I asked you a question at ATA. I said, what is your perfect whitetail arrow setup in terms of take all the wild, outliers out of the equation, put everybody in a big 3-year-old, 4-year-old buck at 30 yards, what is that setup? And then, what is your setup? I want to know what your setup is and how you got there.
So if I was advising somebody, and I preach this all the time, I'm the 900 grain arrow guy for some reason, which actually 900 grains doesn't stop. I've done it. 1,035 is the most I've killed with, and it was hilarious.
Unreal.
And it went right through a 200-pound pig. It went through him like he wasn't there. It just went shoot. But anyway, I've been saying for years and years that 550 perfectly flying with a single bevel on the front is the first step you need to get to.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn to sharpen. You have to grow up a little bit, take your freaking panties off, put the man pants on, and take responsibility for your broadheads being sharp. You can't just pull them out of the package and say, says hunting sharp. So that's really a big deal. Physiologically, it's a huge deal. And then if you can get to 550 perfectly flying. Now, let me be clear. That's why I sell the kits. So my kits on Sirius, just look for my face and go to the Ranch Fairy store or Google the Ranch Fairy store. There's 2 spines. There's 2 arrows of each spine. There's what we think is on spine, and then there's stiffer. And you're going to shoot through it with a bunch of different field points and find the setup that shoots for you. You're going to be somewhere around 550. Just shoot 125 grain point. I'm suggesting get 200 grain points, but whatever. 550 is the goal. If 525 flies and 580 doesn't, shoot 525. It's got to fly on target. Vice versa, if you're one of these speed nuts who clearly can tell that 525 is a little wonky and 585 is flying awesome, or 620 is just repeatedly donking in there, but you just can't get over it, you're compromising arrow flight for your stupid idea that faster or whatever is better. It's flying sideways really fast. Actually, let me get Big Jake.
Oh boy, here we go.
This was Big Jake.
I remember that.
Okay, I had this at ATA. So if you have an arrow that's flying like this and it's really heavy, that's good. If it's flying like this and it's really fast, it's going to hit like that, and then it's going to redirect at impact. or it's going to wobble all the way down the range and it's going to swim. You're going to say, that Broadhead brand XYZ don't fly worth a damn. I emailed the company, told them to kiss my ass. And what happened is your arrow took off like this. This is a wing, 3-blade, 4-blade, whatever. It bites into the atmosphere and the tail starts fighting, and it's doing that because your arrow flight sucks. So I say get around 550. And one of the things that is often missed, don't shoot a really heavy shaft. So I recommend around 10 grains per inch. You don't want to go super light because some of them are too thin walled. You don't want to go to 12 or 15 or Full Metal Jacket, which is the worst arrow on the planet next to Carbon Express because their stupid spine chart is backwards. So don't buy Carbon Express because you won't understand the spine chart. A 250 is 400 spine. That is idiotic. Everybody else plays by the rules. And then you don't want a really heavy arrow. You want a lightish arrow and load the front, and it's more aerodynamically stable. This is all out there. Go research the Sandia report, anything about model rockets, aerodynamic lift, aerodynamic jump, and anything about how airplanes fly, and it'll all start to make sense. So that's where I start. 550-ish, perfect flight, either side of 550 and a single bevel broadhead, especially the public guys. This is one of the first conversations I had with the hunting public is I kept seeing crazy shot angles and you can't pass. Well, you can, but it's a lot of work. I mean, every day you're making this mile-long march, climbing up some wonky ass tree somewhere.
So you're saying after all the work that they're going through, they get their opportunity, the deer scoring too, and that's your chance.
Right. And they if you know you got a crappy setup and a big flapper and a Twizzler, and you pass, I'm okay with that because you're going to wait for the right angle and then shoot them with a crappy system. Okay, I can honor you for that, but I don't think people do that. I think people lie. And if after 6 days of hunting, man, we're human. I'll squeeze her in there, right? It's your day 7, day 6, you're freezing your ass off, you got to piss real bad, and here he comes. And you get kind of a half-ass quarter and 2 shot, and then that's it. You know he's going in the bushes. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you shoot an adult setup with the right broadhead, you can point on them. Listen, it only has to go in about this far, quarter and in, because you're hitting the front of the lungs and everything. You want to shoot through them, don't get me wrong, but if it goes bonk, they're gone. If it stops on the bone, right? So that was one of the first topics I talked to the hunting public about was how many quartering in shots I saw on their videos. I don't watch their videos. They know this. I skip forward to all the shooting part and then go, oh, wow, look at that. Because I'm a nerd. And I said, you just don't have a choice. So why don't you shoot a system that gives you the widest array of shot angles rather than, crap, pass, right? That's a lot of work. We're lucky down here in public. Or private, we just sit around and plunk them. Stupid. You can come back tomorrow. Doesn't work that way in public. All the pressure and everything. So that's where I'd go. That's kind of the first step to getting this done all day long. But
so you mentioned,
go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So you mentioned sharpness and how important that is. Explain to our listeners why you just can't take for granted if your broadhead's sharp enough or not.
Yeah. So there's a lot of junky steel out there. There's a lot of companies that get their stuff done in China for the lowest bid. There's a lot of low-grade stainless on a lot of cool-looking broadhead platforms that won't hold up. And quite frankly, won't hold an edge very long, going 280 feet per second. It's the velocity that eats them up. And then, so learning to sharpen and making sure that you're responsible for what is in your quiver, and it takes a lot of work. I've spent the last 2 years learning, and I can get to the point now that the hair jumps off. When I shave my arm, it doesn't sit on the blade, it's gone. It's jumping off, it's popping, and it's terrifying to learn to strop and all that stuff. But from a physiologic standpoint, the easiest example I have is cutting PVC. We've all tried to do it with a hacksaw. And when you do it with a hacksaw, there's a bunch of hairy crap on there. There's a bunch of pieces and chunks hanging in the hole and all that. And that's what happens when you shoot them with a moderately dull broadhead or broadhead that's rough. It shreds and tears up the end of the blood vessels and all that. Whereas with a pair of PVC cutters, it's clean. And that simulates a really sharp broadhead. Your body has a thing called prothrombin and all this other crap. It's called the clotting cascade. It's another medical fact. You can look that up. The more damage you do to the arterial walls and everything, the more response your body says, an animal says, fix it now. And you got to fix a flat in there. Those little hangy teeth from the from cutting it with the PVC, with the saw, allow this stuff to grab on and seal faster than if it's cut perfectly clean. It's like cutting yourself with a razor blade and the damn thing just keeps bleeding and bleeding, or your wife bitching when she shaves her legs and she's sitting there bleeding, right? Not that ever happens, but that's the difference. And it's just a physiologic fact. So when the broadhead is much sharper, it actually causes less of a reaction physiologically and bleeds more freely. So if you do not get a blood trail, which is more common than you want to admit, write that crap down. Well, you won't. But anyway, if you don't get a blood trail, they don't go anywhere. And you kind of know where they went. So you go that direction and start looking. And that's why you want to get really sharp, stropped broadheads. It's one of the 12 factors that Ed found out. Even for penetration, he shot into multiple layers of hide on the Asiatics that they skinned, and the really sharp broadheads penetrated better. It wasn't 20 inches better, but they performed better. Once again, I said earlier, it's an equation, right? 10% here, 8% there, 2% there, 6. All of a sudden, you got an 82% better system. And it's mostly the physiologics, though. The clotting cascade, look that up. It's rather detailed. All the surgeons know it. All the surgeons make clean cuts because it's easier to seal them back off and sew them back up. And despite all the redneckery out there, sorry, John Adams, suck it.
No, I'm glad Brian asked that question. I think it's I mean, how many times have I even sharpened an or a broadhead, after it came out of the package? Not before watching you. And they make guides and jigs and whatnot where you can run that down now. It's so simple. You
can use a Lansky, you can use anything. You just
30 bucks, 20 bucks. Yeah.
Right. I just use a piece of paper and I set the broadhead down and with the blade up and I push it on there. And if it slides or buckles at all, it's not going out. And I'll usually strop it. Generally speaking, you can take any factory broadhead and strop it and it'll come right around. It'll get way better. I have a saying that Ed has picked up, which was kind of impressive and flattering at the same time. He said the other day, a good friend of mine says this: broadheads are either staying static state or they are eroding, but they don't get sharper. And shredded blades are no good sign. If you shoot a deer,
what do you mean there?
What?
Explain what you mean. Like,
I'm not knocking muzzies. I shot a ton of animals with muzzies, but it always seems like the blades were chewed up. Like the blades are always dinged up and shredded and torn up and stuff. Wow, and people think that's a good thing, right? Barring hitting a rock or something, be realistic. If you shoot like out here elevated, you're at the ranch, we have sand, but in hill country, you're done. If it goes through the deer, it's in rocks. You can't look at that one. But if you get an arrow that stays in an animal, let's say you hit one back and it lodges in the shoulder, they run off with it. And you kind of got a good idea. If the blades are really shredded and torn up, you need to be concerned because one of these days it's going to fail you if it didn't survive, right? And you only know that if you go to the real high quality stuff and you shoot through a pig and then you pick it up and it still shaves. Most people are used to shooting through their animal and the broadhead's kind of it's done. They just throw it in the garbage or whatever. And the more I do this, man, that's not the best sign ever. It's going to cost you one day. And you'll never know that was it. Like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure my 50% number was because the broadheads weren't surviving. I think they weren't surviving impact. And they were super dull. And so it just didn't cut as well into the internal organs that were seriously lethal. And one more fact, because I like those things. Arteries are semi-muscular. rather dense, and they actually flex and stuff. So they're not that easy to cut. They're extremely lethal, but they're very durable. And now if your broadhead's kind of dull, they'll roll over. I've done that with needle sticks. As an RT trying to stick people here. And you literally go like this and you see they already roll out of the way. And people go. And you have to stick them like 4 times. That's not a happy customer when you got to stick them 4 times. But the arteries can roll out of the way of a needle. It's crazy. So we'll do the same thing with the broadhead.
And yeah, and you're saying like the broadhead erodes, right? It doesn't sit in your quiver and get sharper. Every time you pull it out, put it back in, it doesn't sit there and get sharper. So like how often are you honing in your broadheads throughout the season, for instance?
Every day. Every time I go hunting, I check them on paper. I just take a piece of paper and cut into them. And if it's good, you can't, that's the first thing that hits the deer and the only thing that kills the deer. So if you're all your matching underwear and your freaking beanie hat and all this bull crap on your bow and arrow and your wrist, you got to have to order a certain wrist strap for your stupid release because it matches your underwear. That crap just doesn't matter. And then you don't look at your broadheads, and that's what kills them. I know I'm being kind of crazy, but it's a very simple equation. Broadhead kills them. And if it's probably one of the most neglected things in bow hunting. Everybody wants to look cool and buy the coolest bow, and so they show off their friends. And I paid $1,400 for a bow. All this crap. I'm the coolest guy. I get this all the time. Hey man, I just coughed up for the $1,400 XYZ Super Bow. Can you tell me some cheap arrows and broadheads to shoot with? Because I don't have any money. And
you don't actually get that question.
I get it all the time. Every fall, I get 1,000 messages a month starting in May. May through probably October. It's all tuning and stuff like that. Easily 1,000. And I get that question all the time. And I literally say, you screwed the pooch. You did not think about what kills the damn deer. I just say that. I said, sorry, there's no way out. Well, yeah, there's ways out. You're just going to be pissed off. Your $1,400 bow didn't kill a deer. Yeah, right. The bow never kills the deer. There isn't a damn bow on earth killed a deer. I bet somebody's dropped one on a deer and strangled him to death or bonked one on the head. That might have happened once. Okay. For all you haters out there, put that up on the comments in the YouTube and tell us how you killed a deer with a bow. But the arrow kills the deer.
Yeah.
And you should build a $400 set of arrows that are badass and super sharp and shoot a $600 bow. I've done it. I've got that little kid bow in there that's 40 pounds. I think it's a $300 bow. It bear shafts beautifully with 740 grains because I was pushing the forward to center up to 30%. But I've got tough heads on the front. I've got stainless steel adapters in the shafts. I got serious arrows. The fletched with feathers, which is a pain in the ass, but super awesome. And the bow's $400 and it shoots fine. But I still haven't killed a deer with a bow yet. I haven't. It's never happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
It is for lack of effort. I haven't tried to kill them. I haven't done it. So I'd probably do it.
If I had to put money on it, I bet Tim Wells might have it done before you. I'm just saying.
He might. Sure. Yeah, that's right. He's got all kind of crazy stuff going on. He
does that wild stuff. Yeah. But to your point, you mentioned, everybody's so excited about that 2-inch cut or that big hole. You see people prying the hole open before the trophy shots, that sort of thing. That's fine. Whatever, do your thing. But finding the deer versus finding blood. You mentioned something earlier where you don't look for blood so much, you just go after the animal. Or you look for blood too, but at the same time, I can quote from experience this year. I have 15 acres. It's a very narrow, long, skinny 15 acres. Both the bucks I shot were both fixed blade, 530 grain with a heavy FOC. And they didn't leave a lot of blood, but they died within my eyesight. Which is interesting, right? So do you want the blood trail with a big, wide, open, cut, or do you want the deer dead? So, because I think there's probably some facts out there about fixed blades not leaving as much blood as a big mechanical, right?
Nobody's really studied it at length. Nobody studied blood trails at length and written it down. So there's a lot of moving skin and internal linings and things that get in the way. Angled shots tend to close up more than Listen, I'll tell you, I've shot a lot of critters with the mechanical. When they work, it's terrifying. I've had some places where the pig spun and knee high, there was blood just in a circle. It was just amazing when they work. But I had a lot of weird. I just had a lot of weird. And they're either awesome or not. They're equally as not awesome, the other direction, failing. That was my experience. Okay. So the more I do this, I just shoot them low and forward and kill them. And if you get a blood trail, fine. But it's hard once you see it, once you've done it a lot, and I've tested a lot, and I've done a lot of stupid crap. I don't talk about this a lot, but I shot 3 pigs with double bevels, 520 grains, and I shot 3 little 100-pounders quartering, and then I found 0. I stopped doing it. I just stopped doing it. Shooting them on the point of the shoulder at 15 yards and just say, certainly it's going to work one of these times. Well, no, the arrow's 26 inches long when they run off or it flies out. And then I go to 700 in a single bevel, and it's hilarious. Your chut and that leg ain't working. They're a 3-wheeler.
I know what you're saying. So it's not more of a broadhead discussion as much of where you put the broadhead in terms of you're not afraid of the shoulder blade. You're not afraid of the leg bone. You're not afraid of the front quartering shot with your setup. Instead of aiming behind the shoulder 3 inches to stay away from that shoulder blade, you're going in there.
Right. So I did a whole quartering 2 shot series on my channel because it's such a common shot. And when you aim 3 inches, say you aim at the crease quartering 2, you're barely hitting one lung, you might hit the liver, and you're going to gut shoot them. There's not going to be a blood trail out of a tree stand. The arrow is coming out the guts. You're assuring, if you shoot back on a quartering 2 shot, you're assuring no blood trail with the highest percentage that you can assure it, because it is going to exit in the stomach or the large intestine, and the stomach's full of grass. I don't know how people can't figure this out. It's actually that's kind of shitty, but they don't think. They're not trying to be stupid. They don't know they're being stupid. And so that's why I did the quartering 2 shot series with my pig diagram. I showed the arrow moving around and how dangerous that shot is for a 1 lung, pure gut, no blood trail shot, because the entry's high, assuming you're up, and then exit stomach. The stomach sits down in the stomach in the body cavity. It's not very high, it's very low. So that exit is going to be in the stomach, and all that grass. And they say, "Oh, I didn't believe that Broadhead word crap called it." I emailed the damn company, told them they're a bunch of idiots. I don't know. The stomach was there. So, and then if you shoot a mechanical, if it never gets out, you got a high entry. So you may not get a blood trail.
True. So
right?
fill up to that level.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Gravity pulls everything down. Blood don't spray up. If you hit the artery in the back, that's about this big. Good luck with that. I'm not that good. I kind of shoot for the general front part towards the front and low. I always tell people shoot the big part towards the front. And it's pretty. I had an exceptional experience. I just went with Giannis Petrellis down hunting nail guy.
Awesome.
And he killed a bull.
That was your party from last week. Nice.
Yeah. And he killed a big bull, and it was 27-yard shot, and he hit it right in front of the ham. And we got 38 inches of penetration. The broadhead was puffed out the neck right here like a bullet. It went 65 yards. There was no blood trail. He shot through 1.5 feet of gut of stomach. The stomach on that thing was like humongous. And then it went right through the center of the diaphragm and went dead center through the heart, cut both lungs, got arteries coming out, and it was puckered up here. It didn't exit. And it went 65 yards. If he'd have gotten 16 inches of penetration, he'd have made the diaphragm. It would have looked pretty good in it. It would have been over half an arrow because he's 30-inch arrow. It looked good. It would have stayed pretty still. We never found it. We did a full necropsy on it. It was amazing. How far that arrow had to go before it got to the lungs was amazing. It's a big damn animal. I never hunted them. They're everywhere, man. They're huge. So
Wow.
That just keeps coming up. And I'm doing a video, I'm getting ready to post on the quarter and away shot and how it needs to penetrate as far as possible, especially when you get to elk, nilgai, caribou, moose. You're talking about asking for 4 feet of penetration on a bull elk if he gets a hard quarter and away shot. It's got to go 3 feet to get to the lungs.
Jeez.
Right. So that's the kind of stuff, how my kind of head works. That hard quarter and shot behind the rib cage, you're not getting a blood trail unless it exits. You're done. And you could have an arrow and a half of penetration in an elk and it's inside of him. He ain't bleeding. The guts are in the way.
Right.
A foot and a half wide. And the diaphragm's in the way, blocking the blood. It's all John Adams. It's crazy.
Yeah, what really got my attention, and getting back to what Jared mentioned about worrying about that shoulder shot and things, it's like you mentioned, for plan B, because we're always thinking, oh, I'm going to make the perfect shot. I'm going to wait till it's standing there perfectly broadside. But that's what really got me thinking when you mentioned that. And like you mentioned earlier in our conversation about being human, and day 6, you're not going to be perfect with everything. You're tired. You want to make that shot. You want to get something in the truck, and that plan B is a big deal.
It's 4 o'clock. It's going to get dark in an hour and a half. You're praying to God to kill them fast. You don't have to drag them out in the dark. There's a lot of things going through your head you don't realize. And then second, the biggest thing is the animals move, and they change. They could change your impact point you could be shooting at the perfect spot, and they change it by 6 or 8 inches from an elevated position. They're not jumping up. And a deer on earth ever jumped up. They go down and roll. The shoulder blade drops, the deer drops, you're going to introduce the shoulder blade and you go bonk, because everybody told you it's all about shot placement until the deer have a vote. They've been avoiding dying for as long as they've been alive. Birds all night, coyotes, humans, freaking everything chases them around, right? If you don't think that they're on edge a little bit and know how to survive, you're stupid. And it's just a real basic thing. So when you did shoot perfectly and they still move at 6 inches from impact, or 8 or 2, you better be ready for that. You better. It's just part of the game. We'll never beat them. An arrow's got to go 1,200 feet per second before it beats the speed of sound. It's 11 and a half, something like that. And I haven't seen that bow yet, but maybe one day we'll get there and the arrows will start exploding. I release. I don't know how that's going to work out. So it's a super fun puzzle. And then, like I said earlier, I'm getting old. It's fun to see all the people survive, succeed. That's really where my passion is now, is the people who listen and try it and whack stuff. And I've had pictures of guys who are 50 years old. They've got an F-350 in the back and a scooter, and they got a deer. They got some money, right? They're not starving to death. They're not rookies. And they say, this is the first arrow shot through my life. That's when it's awesome. I shot through him and he went 42 yards, looked at me and tipped over. I was like, thumbs up, bro. I mentioned this earlier. It should just be if you shoot poorly. But if the arrow system fails or has a potential to fail, then you really got to shoot good. You really have to be a better shot and get away with some crap to shoot a crappy arrow system that has a chance of not surviving something. And it's a pretty simple equation once you think of it that way.
Amen.
It's super fun.
Yeah, I can't urge people enough to just get on the program, the Ashby program, your YouTube. Yep. When your arrow just doesn't stop, it's such a good feeling to have 2 holes in a deer instead of 1, or in any animal you're hunting. Go look for the deer, they're lying there. It's like you said, Brian, the plan B. If you don't make the great shot and you end up going into a shoulder or something else, you want to have some ass behind it to get through there.
Right. Even if you hit the shoulder blade and they're moving and you only get half the arrow in them, it's better than a bulk. Right.
Right.
And I've seen some idiots I used to do message boards, but no, freaking loony world. And you see people who say, well, I'd rather wound them with a mechanical or kill them super dead than shoot that stupid stuff. Oh, I'm sure everybody wants to walk around and not succeed.
Right.
In other words, I'm going to go ahead and admit failure as I start to make an excuse for my stupid idea. And no, it's fine. There are more customers, future customers. Failure makes sales for the Ranch Fairy. This is my story, right? It's my story. I failed a lot and made a change. So they'll come around. Maybe I should not say stupid so often.
Well,
Yeah.
no, keep it up. Keep it up. Hey, you can't make everybody happy in this life. That's a fact.
But as I get older, I'm getting real kind of no shit. Just get back. I'm saying what I want to say. And when I started the channel, I said, I'm just going to freaking go for it. I don't care. And it worked. A lot of people said, dude, I like the blunt honesty and all the sarcasm. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm real good at it. I practice sarcasm and not paying attention. Nobody works on that.
Oh man, I can tell you, I know some people, friends of mine who were not on board, are not on board, and just like doing what they do, and that's fine. But I tell you what, I'm on board, brother, for sure.
Oh, I assure people. We were talking about this weekend. I was at my buddy's ghost house. We were down fishing when the ladies were there, and I said, dude, if something ever happened to my wife, like she passed away or whatever, I would go to level, like I'm at level 2.5 right now. I'm tamed down. I got the woman, 30 years of being married,
sure,
right?
Sure.
You know, got the testicle cuff, all that stuff. And I'd have grow my hair out, earring, pull a couple of teeth. I'd be tan, like scary tan, have a damn stick and jab little kids. Get back, you little bastards. And get the blue zipper suit with the little buckle. Oh, and just be a maniac. It was so
thank goodness for good women to keep us in line. I'll tell you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, Mrs. Fowler is awesome. My wife is absolutely fantastic. She's wonderful and puts up with all my crap and my crazy hunting and fishing stuff. She always has.
Oh, yeah.
And so without her, I wouldn't be here. But oh my. I told her when I turned 60, yeah, it's super fun. She's a great lady. Well, anything else you want to cover?
No, not tonight, buddy. Nope. You've had you over an hour with us here tonight. Thank you so much for that. We do want to get you back on though for the habitat talk. Actually cover your ranch, how you manage that, the way you've improved your whitetails over the past 5-10 years, your control burns for quail, all that. So unfortunately, I don't think you're off the hook yet, but I hope you'll come back on for another round because
I'll come back for that. That's a lot of fun. That's something that really interests me. We have terrible habitat on our ranch. I do not have a classic South Texas place with all of. In South Texas, there's like 35 plants deer eat. We have 3 or 5 or something. We have a lot of open range. We don't have a very high deer population, but I started managing the herd about 8 or 10 years ago, burning the place. I don't have a fence. I mean, it's low fenced. I don't protein feed. But I'd love to talk about shooting does and shooting the right bucks out, killing off some of the bucks. I have a lot of nieces and nephews that are little. So when we start seeing on camera some buck that just has the wrong, like no brow tines and skinny horns, a 7-year-old doesn't care. They think it's the best thing ever happened. Hey, look, there he is. Oh, boom. Hey, help that deer herd out, right? And then we'll work them up and we'll let them shoot a big one later. So that would be a lot of fun. And like I said, I sent you all those, we were talking earlier, but I sent you those pictures of what we had. And then Howard, who showed up this year, was majestic. He's a freaking, for that place, he's a monster. And it's be a lot of fun to talk about that. So yeah, have me back on in summer or whatever, and we'll do that or whenever. If you get bored or nobody wants to talk to you, I will. I'll be your friend.
We appreciate that.
Because nobody else to talk to us, and that son of a bitch to talk to anybody in a wall, and he'll talk to his own toes or whatever. You don't like people that much, so we'll keep moving. I appreciate the time, and y'all have a good evening. God bless, and let's go, Brandon.
Thanks, Troy.
All right, Troy. Thank you very much, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.